2, and here's Modi.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hi.
How
Hi.
are you? Oh, we're in the studio. I'm so happy. On a Monday. It's so weird to record on a Monday. It was a great week this past week. We were in Chicago at the North Shore Center of Performing Arts, and everybody from Chicago, thank you all for coming out. It was such an amazing show. It was so much fun. And that's it. We're just back in New York doing shows, and special day today for the first time ever in the podcast. The guest came on time, but Periel showed up 15 minutes late, completely forgetting that it was a show day. We were a recording day, but we're all here now.
Oh my God, you are the first time anybody's ever gotten here early.
Literally, you are the first. We have in the studio today Arnold Graham, who I have known since 1995, 6, something like that, when I first began doing comedy. And Arnold Graham is, we need to build what the Catskill Mountains are and what happened up there. And so you'll help us. We'll try to get let the audience know. So those of you who are listening and watching, the Catskill Mountains, it's obviously the movie, what's the number one movie that portrayed it? Dirty Dancing.
Oh, right.
So this is an hour and a half north of New York City, and it's a mountain-esque region. By Goyim, by non-Jews, it's not mountains. It would just be called little hills and just a little bit north of a city. But the Jews call it the mountains. And at its height, how many hotels were there, Arnold?
Originally, there were almost 500 hotels and probably 800 kachalanes, bungalow colonies, and rooming houses.
Okay, so hotels, you know what a hotel? A kuchalane. Kuch means cook in Yiddish. Kuchalane. So there were all these like bungalows, and everybody cooked on one lane.
No.
So all the cooking was done in one spot, and they brought it back to the bungalows. Now these are for people who lived in the city, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in New York, wherever, Queens, and this was their getaway. They went to the mountains, and whether you were in a hotel or a kuchalane or a bungalow or whatever it was, they had entertainment. And we're talking about now. What year would you say was the height?
Well, I started out in the early 60s, and I'm still there. And I am a partner at NYK-RAPP Enterprises, and my partner Howard Rapp and I have been together 52 summers. We just completed our 52nd summer together. And in Florida, it's NYK, and I have Ari Kaduri and Allison Chaplin as my partners there.
I've never seen Arnold speak like this. Usually he speaks normally, and all of a sudden I've never seen. Where did this come from, Arnold? This robotic I am with Harry 50. Could you be normal for this, Arnold?
I'll be normal.
Just be normal.
All right,
oh my God! What the
right.
hell was that? That was the
well.
weirdest thing I've ever experienced.
Oh,
from
shut
Arnold.
up.
Okay, so now at the height of this thing, probably in the 60s, right?
Absolutely, 60s, 70s, until 1998.
Is this what Mrs. Maisel was about? The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? Is that where that took place also?
Absolutely. They're portraying it as the Catskills, but
Right.
it was not shot in the Catskills.
Okay, but that's...
The vibe.
Yeah.
That's the vibe, yeah. So you have to understand, some of these hotels had 3 shows a night. There was an early show, a regular show, and a late show.
Absolutely.
So you guys had a hotel for the performers.
At one time we did, called the Willow Lane, which was owned by the Kutcher family of Kutcher's Country Club, and we housed many of the artists all summer long from Memorial Day through Labor Day.
All Jews.
No.
No.
Oh,
Not the performers, the people who are coming to stay there and see.
At one time, it was, let's say, 85, 90% Jewish. But afterward, we had every ethnic group that you could think of. All the conventions came to the Catskills. The Firemen's Convention, the police
but we're talking
department.
about when it was the height, when it was all Jews, and it was the Jewish Alps, they called it. A million different names.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but that's old stuff. They called it the Jewish Alps, the Jewish Mountains, whatever. And there were 3 shows a night. So comedians were up there and making a living. You did the early show here, the regular show here, and you did a late show somewhere else. And then they were the acts you had. I mean, we're talking about give us the biggest names you were booking.
Milton Berle, Bob Hope,
up there. Bob Hope.
Jerry Seinfeld, Billy Crystal,
Wow.
Roseanne Barr,
Singers. Give us some singers.
Jerry Vale, Vic Damone, Engelbert Humperdinck, Tom Jones, Joel Grey, Sammy Davis Jr.
Wow.
The great Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
He was the best.
What's your best story about Sammy Davis Jr.? Give me a good
He
Sammy
was
Davis
working
Jr.
at Brown's Hotel, and some of the guests, it was a kosher hotel. Some of the guests said they smelled some bacon. And we said, no, there's no bacon in this hotel. Well, he was in his room, and he went to ShopRite in the middle of the night, and everybody saw him at ShopRite, and he did cook in his room. Of course, he never brought it out of the room, never into the dining room or anything like that, but they were correct. And we told him it was beef fry, which is the kosher bacon is beef fry. But he was such a star. He was so great. Everybody loved him, and he was a big draw in the Catskills as well.
Of course, it's Sammy Davis Jr.
Right, as was Mitzi Gainer when she came with a 40-piece group with her, dancers, singers, everything from Broadway and the movies. The great Mitzi Gainer was there. And there weren't enough rooms at Brown's for her, and I had to think quickly, what am I going to do? We promised them rooms. So I said to the manager, we have a fabulous chalet down the road. Well, there was this little hotel called the Hisana Lodge down the road from Brown's, and I turned off all the lights except for the motel rooms that they had, and I told them this was a chalet. He gave me a chalet the next day, but they stayed there. They had a great time. We made sure they had food, and they had whatever they needed. We took good care of them.
Besides me, who was the act you booked the most?
Well, Modi, you were one of the acts that we booked the most in the beginning because we made the most money out of you.
Of course,
and
I
that's
worked
what we did.
for nothing. I worked there, but you so now here it is. So the Catskill Mountains was 500 hotels and all kinds of bungalow colonies and all of that, and now here we are in 1995 or 6. I'm introduced to the RAPP agency. Now, the RAPP agency who used to book all these mountains, and it was a huge agency. They were on Broadway, and I remember your office. I remember the first time I went to see you. You and your partner, they each had a desk that was an acre. Each desk was an acre. No computer. Rolodexes by the dozens.
Oh, that's
by
amazing.
the dozens, and paper and tapes, VHS tapes and little cassette tapes of acts. It was a live Broadway Danny Rose, and they were booking acts nonstop. And I come in there. You had seen me. I did a show. Somebody told you about me.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I came. I brought you my tape, and you booked me. Now they booked me.
What was your tape?
I don't remember.
Like a VHS, like you
VHS,
walked in.
VHS tape that they sat there and watched. They had that little TV with the VHS in the bottom
Yeah.
of it. Yes, it's before CDs even. Anyway, so the first time Arnold booked me in the Catskills was this. You're going to open for Claire Barry of the Barry Sisters, right? And those of you listening, it's worth a Google. Any mention we named today is worth the Google. The Barry Sisters. They sang in harmony like two angels. One was dead and one was doing a show. And I was her opening act at the Concord Hotel.
Correct.
My first time performing in the Catskills was the Concord Hotel. Now, I'm opening for Claire Barry. Now, I had no idea, was a little blind or something.
Yes.
So you guys put X's on the stage.
Yes, we did.
And I had and so she would know. She could only see like down to her feet.
Come
and
on.
she followed the X's to the piano and to the microphone. But come what may, I'm standing there in the Concord Hotel. This is it. This is the Concord Hotel. This was the apex of the whole thing.
3,000-seat nightclub.
Yeah. And
Wow.
the story and the famous stories about the Concord hotels, so you have like a million doors. So you're on stage, there's the audience, and then there's the doors to get out. Now, when someone's bombing, what's the story?
It could be a 1-door walkout, a 2-door, or a 10-door walkout.
When you see doors open,
Oh
you see
my
light coming in.
And especially the seasonal guests, that were used to being there all the time, they thought they knew better than anybody else, they would occasionally, more than occasionally, walk out on a major star. Well, we saw him before or something else, and they just would go to the tea room or to the coffee shop.
So you see these doors open up. So now here I am, and then I get off stage. Claire Barry comes on, and I did 20 minutes or something like that. And then Arnold brings me to a hotel that's not that far away called the Raleigh Hotel to do the late show. And he says to me, go up there and do 50 minutes. I didn't have 50 minutes. I did not have 50 minutes. And I went out there, and whatever I did, I survived it, and that was it. And that was also, just so you know, the last weekend of the Concord Hotel.
Wow.
It was I closed the Concord Hotel. It was insane. But so you were booking all of these shows. I mean, tell us some of the stories.
For those who don't know about the Barry sisters, they were not just a Yiddish act. The Barry sisters appeared many times on the Ed Sullivan Show. They were the first act to go to Russia and perform. They had albums both in English, Hebrew, and Yiddish, and they sold millions of records. They were sensational, and they were a wonderful act to book.
They were nice to work with.
Yes,
Who was your favorite act to book? Who was your favorite?
I
of
always
these?
enjoyed Tom Jones.
You're supposed to say Modi.
No, he
Nah,
not.
I'm
That's
just kidding.
Modi is a favorite of mine, not because I'm sitting here. It's been many years, and we love to book Modi.
Tom Jones. You guys understand with Tom Jones?
Wait, I want to hear more though. Like, was that the first time you were performing in front of 3,000 people? Like, what was that like for you too? That must have been insane.
It didn't really even hit me. I'm up there. I'm like, I thought I was it. I was killing at the comedy clubs in the city. I was the funniest thing in the world. I went up there and I actually had a good set at that hotel. She went on afterwards. I don't even remember what my act was. And then, it didn't hit me how amazing it was. It didn't hit me.
But then to go up and do 50 minutes, like that's a lot.
The next place was a late show in a place where they also had strippers after me.
Oh, that's
the Raleigh
so
Hotel,
good.
right?
In the Swizzlestick Lounge.
The Swizzlestick Lounge.
Okay.
It was.
Okay, seriously, we need to
Iconic.
take a moment.
You have to understand right now, these hotels were all, and it's a part of my joke, they were all built like in the 70s. They had their renovations in the 70s. The lighting fixtures, the seating, was vintage, and it's like being used
Sorry,
and
gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. The Swizzlestick Lounge, if you
Yes, it was.
broke it down, the lighting and the seats and all of the theaters up in the Catskills that I got to perform in, which is Kutcher's.
Right.
When I first began, there was Kutcher's, the Raleigh Hotel. There was that
The
one
Neville
weekend-
Hotel.
the
I
Neville-
stayed there.
The Neville Hotel.
Fallsview Hotel. Next door to the Neville was the Fallsview, the Granite Hotel, the Pines Hotel, the Paramount Hotel, Shanks
No,
Paramount.
but we're talking about when I first. I mean, we can name them nonstop.
Well,
but
all
what
these people were still open when you were there.
Oh, they were.
Absolutely.
And you only booked me in those 4.
Well, what about Rosemary Cottages?
No, I'm talking about real hotels.
Real
Rosemary
hotels.
Cottages.
There were about, at that time, Raleigh, Pines. Absolutely.
No, absolutely not. Pines was closed when I was up there.
No, it wasn't.
I stayed in the Pines too. We used
Did
to go.
you?
Yeah, we used to go up there when I was a kid. The Neville and the Pines. We stayed there from
Really?
Queens.
I remember when we first came to America, my parents were figuring out what we were going to do, like what their thing was. So I told them the Catskills. So
You told them you're like 7 years old. You're like the Catskills.
I didn't tell them. One of our neighbors said we go to the Catskills.
Where did you go to Grossinger's?
No, we went to. I remember. I was
went
Kutcher's.
there
We went to
too.
Kutcher's, and I remember the act Friday night was Buddy Hackett.
Wow.
And my mom left. We left Saturday. She saw the lunch. She saw the food. She saw the people. She says, "This is not for us. We're leaving right now. We're not staying for dinner, and we're not staying here till Sunday." This is just a lot of food for no reason, and she left. And it wasn't our thing at all. But I remember seeing Buddy Hackett. It was like I remember it like I was 8 years old. It was insane. But so you had me in those hotels, and they were like theater, and I was doing an hour, and there was a band if I wanted to sing.
incredible.
And I
want pictures.
So Arnold made me a performer rather than just a comedian. Arnold booked me in all of those places and made me a performer.
That's so beautiful.
To know how to perform in front of an audience. You never knew what was in front of you. You never knew if it was going to be the age and the Orthodox or Russian or whatever it was. It was just you really had to read the room. You had to read the room at the time I was up there. And
what about the great Malzy Lawrence?
Malzy Lawrence. Now I got to go up there and see these comedians that were brilliant, not like famous, but brilliant. Malzy Lawrence. I mean, tell me your crazy Malzy Lawrence stories.
Well, there was a hurricane, and Malzy was living in Monticello, and I had to have a show at Camelot Woods in Monticello. And I had to call him, and he didn't want to go out. So I had to call his wife, Patty. And I said, Patty, you got to get him to leave the house and go to Camelot Woods because I need a show tonight. Those people are waiting. I don't care, hurricane, no hurricane. And because of her, she sent him out, and he did a great job. He also appeared in Catskills on Broadway with Freddie Roman, Dick Capri, and Louise Duarte. Sometimes also Marilyn Michaels was in the show. And it was a great show that lasted on Broadway also almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's called Catskills on Broadway, and they had basically the comedians that were up in the Catskills doing their Catskill shtick, and it killed. It was an amazing show.
And you guys are really glossing over some things that maybe you're taking for granted.
First
of all, Swizzlesticks. What's that place called?
The Swizzlestick Lounge.
That is the most incredible name. Does that still exist?
No.
It sounds like a strip club from like the 50s.
You can't even, so keep in mind now, you're the Swizzlestick Lounge, and the back of the Swizzlestick Lounge was this big window that looked into the huge theater of the hotel.
Oh my God.
And it was such a great theater. It had that lip. It had this like a runway in the middle, and you walk out and you could do the show on that. It was so good.
Oh my God.
It was such an amazing layout. The place looked frightening. So Arnold always offered me a room at the hotel. I only once in my entire life stayed in that. It was in the Concord Hotel. It was just, I couldn't. I just drove home every night. You know, I do a show, I'm pumped up. It's only an hour and a half back to the city. I just drove home. I woke up, I did a whole day, did whatever, and then drove back sometimes. There were sometimes he booked me 2 shows a night, like one place, another place, and then the next day.
But why didn't you want to stay there?
I couldn't sleep in that. I couldn't. It was so harsh. It was at the end of the hotels. They didn't. Look at him smiling, of course, because he had a house up there. He was sleeping in a villa, a beautiful house in the. Yeah, he's stay in the hotel. They'll give you a room. Ugh. There was one time I'll never forget this. I'm driving home, so you came back down the Palisades back into the city, and there's a gas station that's in New Jersey, so there's no taxes are low, and Arnold and his partner Howie went back and forth, and back then you used to have those huge Lincoln Continentals.
Lincoln Town.
Oh,
yes.
Huge. Anyway, so I went in to get like a drink or something in the bathroom, and I come out, and I see them both sitting there at the gas pump. Now, I had just done 2 shows for them. It's like 2:30 in the morning. They're both coming out. Do you remember this? I walked out of the gas station, took my shirt off. Now I'm shirtless, and I jump on their hood. Both of them, they pop up, and I roll over to the driver's side where Arnold's sitting there, and I look him in the face. He looks me in the face and didn't break out. He goes, "How were the shows?"
That's all I care about.
That's all he cared. How were the shows? That was what it was. But you booked me with Neil Sedaka.
Neil Sedaka. My dad first booked Neil Sedaka as a pianist at the Shady Nook Country Club in Loch Sheldrake.
Shady Nook. I mean,
these names are the best.
Also, Jewish Alps, by the way. If you don't think I want a sweatshirt that says the Jewish Alps on
most
it.
Most people call it the Borscht Belt.
The Borscht Belt.
And not the Jewish Alps, but the Borscht Belt.
Well, the Jewish Alps is pretty good.
Well, Also, who I'd like to speak about is having Milton Berle, the great Milton Berle from TV, Uncle Milty, who came up, and his big thing was to rehearse. He was from the old school, and he would take the mic and walk around and make sure the sound is perfect. And he'd have the opening act who only did 12 minutes because he always wanted to do the time. He was the star of the show. And he always did a fantastic show. He would perform for over an hour. Even at his older age, he was able to do this, as was Tony Martin and people of that ilk. They all came up to the Catskills. Red Buttons, the Academy Award winner. Gabe Kaplan, Welcome Back, Kotter. And of course, I said before, Jerry Seinfeld and Billy Crystal and Roseanne Barr. Joan Rivers, a huge hit in the Catskills.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
huge
What are
hit.
your Joan Rivers stories?
She was fabulous.
She was, right?
She really was.
Not only was she fabulous on stage, she was a lady.
Oh.
There was nothing that she requested other than the flowers on the stage, which we had to buy a big plant, and she was moving them around. Why we had to spend all that money, I don't know. But you know what? It was worth it. She drew, and that was the big thing. For example, Kutcher's had 800 guests, but they had a nightclub that sat 1,500. So they were able to sell 700 tickets to an outsider at $40 to $50 for a ticket. In those days, was a lot of money.
Yeah, sure.
And what was the name of the theater in Kutcher's? The
Starlight.
The Starlight.
Oh.
And it was stars everywhere.
Oh, I
Stars
love it.
everywhere. You've got to see it. Google all these hotels and look at the theaters in them.
The logos must be incredible.
It was a
Kutcher's
beautiful
was-
nightclub. When they first built that nightclub, it was beautiful, as was Brown's. And Brown's had a lot of big stars, including Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, Jay Black in the Americans, Rita Moreno, who is currently on
sure.
television. She's a big star now in
Yeah.
her 80s. Cheetah Rivera,
Sure.
Tommy Toon,
Yeah.
Hal Linden.
Hal
These-
Linden was from
Barney Miller.
Barney Miller shows. It was a sitcom, and then he does this whole act, and it was an amazing thing, and there I am now, the tail end of the Catskills. I was up there doing shows. Let me tell you how many shows I did for Arnold between 1995 or 6 till I don't know when. Whenever he sent a check, it was a check and it had like the pay stub with it. And I kept them all.
Oh,
And it probably looks like, I still have it in my mother's house, it looks like a phone book and a half. That's how thick it was. I was constantly driving back and forth.
And sometimes I put thank you on the bottom of it, too.
Yes.
I always did
Thank
that.
you.
I always
Yes.
did that. I tried my best to
Yeah.
have a rapport with most of the performers that we booked. And I wanted to say one more thing. I also book a hotel to this day called the Villa Roma.
Yep.
And it's an Italian-American resort, but now it's open to everybody. It was always open to everybody, but now it's the United Nations coming there. And I've been with them almost 45 years. They have a beautiful nightclub.
What are the acts you booked there? He's booked everything there.
where is it?
It's in Calico, New York, about 20 miles north of Monticello.
It is in the end of the earth. It is so far from anything else. You have to go to like the last exit of that on that highway. You go 40 minutes into this thing, behind the mountain, through a farm. You drive through a farm, under a barn, into a hill.
Where the cows are, you have to pass
Schindler
the
didn't
cows.
hide the Jews this good. I'm telling you, this hotel was at the end of the earth, and you drove there, and you finally got there. But they had a beautiful turnout always.
They have indoor tennis. They have an outdoor golf, 18-hole golf course, indoor-outdoor swimming, bowling, fishing, boat rides for the kids. And if you're available, why don't you join them for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's? That would be a
There
great
he
plug-in.
is.
Oh my
Amazing.
God, you're plug. I didn't know he'd be sitting here plugging.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? And now, so that whole audience, by the way, it's not like they disappeared. Those that were died. But now that whole audience moved to Florida.
Right.
And you're down in Florida with booking
Absolutely.
shows and booking me.
Spain.
I mean, I have a tour coming up there in January. I have 5 shows for Arnold
Oh, I love that.
in these beautiful theaters. These are gorgeous theaters in Boca, West Palm,
Pembroke Pines,
Pembroke Pines.
Boynton
Gorgeous
Beach,
theaters.
Boynton Beach as well.
Boynton Beach, yeah.
And we have Modi, who is coming down this season, Rita Moreno, Robert Klein, the Bronx Wanderers.
I don't know what that is, but that's my
No.
favorite name so far, maybe. The
The
Bronx
Well, the
Wanderers?
Bronx Wanderers, the 50s, 60s group that
What's their famous song?
they don't have a song, but they have a fabulous act. They just got off the rock and roll cruise last week, and they are headlining at the Westgate Hotel in Las Vegas, where they have an open-ended contract. They were at Caesars for 2 years in Las Vegas as well, and they are very popular today.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you once booked me to open for the guys that sing "Under the Boardwalk."
Oh, the Drifters.
The Drifters, yes.
Benny King and the Drifters.
Yes,
Sure.
Yeah.
Wait, can I ask a
And
question?
they're black, right?
Yes, they're black.
Yeah, I had no idea they were black when I got there. But they were. It was. I mean, I knew the song. I didn't know the band. We didn't grow up in that. You know.
We had the Four Tops and many of those groups up in the Catskills as well.
The Four Tops.
I'm not familiar with the Four Tops.
Well,
I'm
I think
sorry
you
to
should
say.
Google
I will
them.
Google.
I
I have a
think
lot
you-
of homework to
they-
do.
The Four Tops.
Do you know who Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. are?
Yes.
Originally in the Fifth Dimension, and now they're in Vegas. They're also in Vegas. They still work to this day.
What
and
about Siegfried and Roy?
they're dead?
Not both of them.
They're dead.
Both of them?
Yes.
Oh, I loved them.
Oh.
David
That's a Vegas act. He's the Catskills.
No,
and-
sir. David Copperfield worked the Catskills. So it's not just the Catskills. He's in Vegas for many, many years.
Okay, I have some questions
Go
though,
for it.
if
Let
I
me
may.
yeah.
How did you get into this whole
Yeah.
thing? Where did you grow up? Where did you come from? Did you live up there? You
No.
seem very Jewish to me.
I'm not very Jewish.
You're not very
No,
Jewish?
Yes, I am, and I'm proud of it.
Well, you should be.
Okay, so how did you?
I
start-
love
how
your
did you sta- how
jacket.
did
You have
get
your
into
little
this?
name.
That's a
It's
Friars Club
beautiful.
The Friars
jacket. No, that's a
Club.
Friars Club
It's
jacket.
amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So hold on. How did you?
Okay.
How did you start? How
My
did
dad was in the business.
Okay.
And-
Where are we? Locate us.
New York, Catskills, Lakewood, New Jersey.
What part of New York?
Lower East Side.
Oh,
where
wow.
where I still reside.
Wow.
As does
Same.
Modi.
Same.
Same.
Same. By the way, one of the best jokes I have in my act I got from Arnold. Arnold and I bought in this thing called co-ops called Seward Park, and he lived there, and I didn't realize that together. So we were having dinner in Florida, and I said, I just bought an apartment in Seward Park. He goes, really? I live in Seward Park. And then I said to him, I'm doing construction, and he says to me, I know who you shouldn't use. And since that, it was one of my biggest jokes, and it was Arnold's joke. I know who you shouldn't use.
That's
Because
hysterical.
he had just done construction on his apartment.
Right.
First of all, my father grew up in Seward Park.
Oh, wow.
So you grew up in the Lower East Side.
Yes, I went to Seward Park High School.
That's where my father went.
Oh.
Really?
Yes.
And Modi lives there now, so it's now called the fashionable Lower East Side.
It's incredible. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Where all the prices went up, whether you're in the store, whether you're in selling your
Yeah,
apartment
for
or buying your
20
apartment.
years
When
already,
I
though,
moved
more.
when I moved in there in 2004, and we knew Arnold. I go, Arnold, let me take you to this restaurant that was called 71 Clinton Street, and it's across Delancey. He said to me, where? What? I said, no, it's a different world. He said to me, at 6 p.m., you never left your apartment.
Right.
You'd never go that place after 6
Right.
p.m.
You didn't go to Ludlow Street. You didn't go
I
to
remember-
Orchard Street
yeah,
at
and-
night. No, none of that.
I remember visiting my grandparents when I was little. You didn't go outside to. No way.
Yeah. Well, it's changing now. It's the hottest
Yeah,
place.
it's amazing.
And it's amazing.
But anyway, so your parents lived there.
as well. Right. I had my own apartment. They had their apartment. I had aunts and uncles living in the neighborhood. I
Wow.
was born about 4 blocks from where I live now in the old Amalgamated building on Grand Street. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment there. I think we paid $65 a month for rent.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And when I moved to Seward Park and I had a 1-bedroom apartment, even at that time, the rent was only like $100.
But didn't you own? Everybody owned back then.
No, we didn't own at that time.
$100.
You put money into the apartment. Let's say you put in $2,000. I'm just using that as a number. If you moved, you got your $2,000 back. You didn't make any money. You didn't lose any money. You got it back. Today, that same apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, you can sell it for over $1 million at this point.
Easily.
No, I moved in. There was already co-op.
It was co-op when Modi.
But I want to get back to you and booking.
Let's go back.
No, so how did you start booking
I was working
acts?
with my dad. I graduated Seward Park, and my dad was working, and it was time to go to college, and I really didn't want to go. I don't feel that college is for everybody. But my parents, no, you're not going to go in show business. It's too hard. It's too this. And I had to promise them that if I didn't make a living in 2 years, or at least make money, I will go get a teaching degree. And thank God I never had to go back to college. I couldn't stand sitting in the classroom for 2 hours. It just wasn't for me. And
so what was your first experience booking shows? Okay, now here you are. Now you're at the RAPP agency, which is already established, right?
Oh, I wasn't at the RAPP agency then.
Oh.
I was working with my dad. And I had an office at 1650 Broadway, which I shared with Jackie Cannon, who was a publicity agent at that time, and 2 other agents. And I had a small little room there. And then my dad bought a restaurant on 48th Street and 6th Avenue. And to make sure that I was, let's say, behaving and being in the office, he put a walkie-talkie so that he could reach me at any time. And it would check up on me on a regular basis. And after that, I moved to 300 West 55th Street in the Westerly building, and I got an offer from Charlie-RAPP, who was the largest booking agency of one-nighters at that time. He booked places in Las Vegas. He booked places like the Fontainebleau in Miami and other places. And I had to work there for 2 years to see if it would work out. If it worked out, which it did, I would get 25% of the business, and his nephew Howard, who was my partner, 25, and Charlie had 50. In 1974, Charlie died, and Howie and I became full 50% each partners, and it's been like that ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Incredible.
they know.
And we've had a marvelous
career
and relationship.
And also with the acts, they are respectful. They are nice. There's of all the disgusting stories you always see on TV that they make movies about, they're not. They're just the sweetest 2 guys, they always have your back if the venue is something's off there, and it's what it is. They're great, and so that's how you began.
Right, and I also left out 2 people that I'd like to say: Jackie Mason, who was with us at one time, and Steve Solomon. My mother's Italian, my father's Jewish, and I'm in therapy, which we brought to Off-Broadway and lasted 22 and a half months. The other people like Freddie Roman, as I said, Dick Capri, who's great, 90 years old. The man just retired.
Who, Dick Capri?
Dick Capri.
He's 90 years old?
He's 90 years old, and he's just sensational. Well, Freddie Roman is no baby either. He's got to be between 83 and 85.
He's still working. He's still working.
No, Freddie retired too.
He died. Okay, he's retired.
And Stewie Stone is unfortunately not well at this time, but he will go back to work.
Stewie Stone, which I had the privilege of performing with many times, one of the funniest comedians on and off stage.
Yes, he is.
Absolutely hilarious. I'll never forget, you booked us in Ohio once, and we're on a plane, this small, one of those Delta connecting planes with like 1 seat and 2 seats on the other side. And we're sitting there squished in there, and some guy walks by with a cane and one of those collars, those the neck brace collars. What are they called? Those neck brace collars and black eye and this and sutures and the cane. And Stewie looks at him and goes, "You got to get a lawyer. Do you have a good lawyer? You got to get a lawyer." He's just one of the funniest guys off stage and on stage, you booked me for things besides the Catskills. You booked me all over the country.
Well, we had a lot of one-nighters at that time. You know, a lot of organizations: Knights of Columbus, Knights of Pythias, Masons.
So
many. I also wanted to tell you about Henny Youngman. Everybody knew Henry Youngman. We used to drive him up to the Catskills. He didn't drive, and his big thing was he got free food at the Carnegie Deli in New York. So we had to stop off there and he would go in and get enough sandwiches for 20 people, not just for the 4 of us in the car. And he would get shrimp cocktail, then he would get sandwiches, and he would get everything, Franks, and he would get French fries. And we would eat all the way up to the Catskills.
That's so funny.
And he was really a very funny man.
Henny Youngman.
But Henny Youngman had no price.
What do you mean?
He would tell you he wants X amount of dollars. And you say, well, Henny, I can't afford to pay you that. It's too much. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And by the end of the night, you would get him for what you needed. That's why I said he had no price.
That's how you work with me. That's how he works with me. Here's the price I can give you. I go, are you crazy?
You're
I'm
crazy.
making this much here and that much there. He goes, thank God you're making this much here and that much there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to work for me.
That's right.
Literally, that's
right.
the speech he gives me every single time.
And it'll never end.
No, the stories don't. He once booked me on a pass. Listen, speaking of eating bacon in a hotel, it was at the Nevele Hotel, Nevele, which is 11 spelled backwards. I don't know if you know that. So it was a Passover program. The whole place there is Orthodox Jews who are not eating chametz, which is leavened bread or anything that has that kind of a product. Now, Alan King was doing the show, the main show. He had a singer who was running late because something happened. And so he was up in the green room, and I was around the corner. What's the name of the hotel around the corner? From
Falls View.
The Falls View. Nochahol. Anyway.
That's not so.
Come on. When I was there, it looked like it had been bombed. I run over to hopefully catch Alan King's act, which is my hero of comedy. 5 people ask me, how do you describe? I go, Alan King is my.
Wow. Okay.
And so he's up there now. He used to drink.
Oh yes, Tanqueray.
Gin, which is the liquid chametz. It's liquid. It's liquid. What you cannot drink on
Passover.
On Passover. And he's in the green room now. Now the green room. Keep in mind, it's the green room. It was a cinder block room with a naked light bulb hanging, and they brought him a fruit platter, and he brought his own gin. And he told me he was doing the gig for you for a special price as long as you gave him a car back and forth. And I go up there and I'm sitting with him 2 hours because the act was late. They were running late. The whole thing was late. And I'm watching him slowly go through this bottle of gin. Then he asks, the singer's on, and he asks for a cup and fills the rest of the thing. It looks like water. And he says, stage left on a stool. Hands it to the guy. Goes out there. Now, with whatever left of the gin in him and the rest of that, and did an hour and a half of material I never saw in my life. It was one of my best comedy nights watching. He was so amazing.
Fabulous. Alan did shows for us also in Florida, and every night he was doing 2 shows a night. We had to give him 2 bottles, one for the early show and one for the late. But he never missed. He did his time. Another thing in the Catskills, let's say they were working at the Concord Hotel where they got top dollar for a Saturday night performance. We would offer them a lot less money on a Friday, and places like the Nevele and Kutcher's at the time and other places would take them on the Friday, so they got 2 nights out of it. And
That's smart.
Unlike Modi, they stayed over.
Well, it was those in the 70s, and it was the hotels were gnarly then.
80s and 90s as well.
Yeah, no, 80s and 90s, yes,
They
but not
stayed.
in the not 90s.
90s, they certainly stayed. Big stars stayed at Kutcher's. Big stars stayed
In
at
the
Concord.
90s.
In the 90s until the day that anybody closed. As a matter of fact, the country artists came up like Willie Nelson,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart, Tammy Wynette, Lee Greenberg. Lee. He sang America. Do you know the song? All right, we'll skip that then. The great Willie Nelson.
Which America? There's a million versions. Okay, so whatever.
God bless the USA. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Lee Greenwood. I
Lee
am sorry.
Greenwood. Lee Greenwood and Lee Greenblatt.
Well, I
are
made
2
him Jewish.
different
What do you
names.
want? I made the man Jewish.
One time he booked me in Kutcher's.
What about Five-ish Finkel?
Okay, no, now you're getting that. You went from that to that.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again, please.
Five-ish Finkel,
Five-ish
who
Finkel.
starred and got an Academy Award on picket fences, on television.
Not
He was-
Academy Award. What's it called?
An Emmy.
An Emmy.
It was an
Emmy.
Emmy. At 75 years old, five-ish, who worked off-Broadway, Yiddish theater.
Oh, this is the
was
best.
a great act. Was
And
a-
his son
and his son Elliot
played
and I
the-
xylophone
the
one, piano
xylophone.
the other. They're great.
And
They are great.
Five-ish
you booked Five-ish's son to open for me at some place in New Jersey.
Right.
And you say he's going to go on and do whatever, and you'll go on. He played an hour and 10 minutes of the fakakta xylophone. You know xylophone? The audience is like, enough.
He
Enough
called
of
himself
this.
America's greatest xylophone player, and that's how you had to
The
bill
only
him.
one.
You had
The
to-
only one.
Right.
And you booked him to open for me, and that I would never forget that. An hour and a half, the audience wanted to hang him and his xylophone.
That's a lot of xylophone.
It's a lot of xylophone.
That's a lot of
It's a
xylophone.
lot of xylophone.
Even I'll admit that.
It was a lot of xylophone, but he we got from Piper Sprinkle to one time Arnold booked me at the Kutcher's Hotel. Now keep in mind the stage is this it's a round, it's a half round room. The stage half round, stunning, gorgeous lights, this and that, and in front it could be a dance floor if you took all the tables away. So he books me up there on a Sunday out of nowhere for the polka retreat.
Oh, yes.
They had a polka retreat.
Jimmy
So-
Sturr and his polka retreat.
Exactly. And it's exactly what it looked like. And so here I am in a room packed full of goyim. Goyim. No, the goyim that came to dance the polka. Not just goyim. Goyim that came to dance the polka. He said, go out there and do a half hour. They wanted to see me like they wanted to root canal. I went out there and did it. I got whatever jokes I was able to land on or whatever. It was just out there. But those were the gigs that were up there, and then conventions and.
But they loved you.
Yeah,
Come on, let's tell the truth.
It's impossible not to love him.
He's so cute. What do you want?
Back then, I don't even know what my act was. I used to to sing with the band a song or two. The band would come on.
Oh, it sounds so fun.
It was a fun time. It was and I was doing the regular comedy clubs, and then I was doing the road stuff with like the Stern guys, and this was always there. It was just
Who are the Stern guys?
the guys who were on the Howard Stern show.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
And then you had Florida.
Yes, we have a big season coming up in Florida this year. I'll be down there beginning next Saturday evening after Shabbos.
Could you lose that tone
Yeah.
of no one's listening, no one's going to book an act from you from this thing? This is just
I don't want to sell an act. I'm here just to talk about the Catskills mainly.
Yeah,
and you
but-
brought up Florida, not
no,
me.
but then you went into and we are booking Florida currently, looking at this and that. But the Florida shows are
They're
really,
great.
They're
They're
great.
great.
They're great. They are in their chairs. Let me tell you, I've just came off of the Know Your Audience tour, and we literally began every show almost a half hour late because the audience just comes in so. In the Jewish world, when the Jews are young, they come an hour and a half late to a show. When they're old, they come an hour and a half before the show.
That's right.
So in Del Rey, when you get to the theater, the show starts at 7. It is packed by 6:30. There's not, and people have been there since 5.
What is that about?
What
That's
is
like a
that?
real thing. My entire family, except for me, obviously, is like that.
They have beautiful theaters in Florida.
No.
now.
Why
why
do
they
Jews
get so early?
Yeah. Why do Jews come an hour and a half before things start?
They have nothing else to do.
No,
That's
but
boils it. Where are they going? They eat. They have an early bird dinner. If they go out 5, if you get there about 10 to 5, you still can get on the early bird special. So they go out to dinner. By 6 o'clock, they're finished. So they come over to the theaters.
I love that they're sliding in
They
just to
slide
make
in
the
there.
early bird 10 minutes before it
Oh,
ends.
yeah.
yeah.
4:55.
They
The
come-
Jews start to line up for a 5 o'clock ending.
and they're there, and it's a different. And you have first of all the show. You have to first of all you slow it down. They don't want to be like. So you're doing, even though you're doing an hour, it's really 40 minutes worth of material because you're stopping and you're speaking like this, and they appreciate that. They don't want to have it come at you like this.
So I would do well there, is what
you
you're
would
saying?
do very well. You would do very well.
Many of the places now have changed. The audiences are getting younger. People are buying into these over 55 communities, and there are a lot of people in their 50s coming into them, and a lot of different ethnic groups are also buying in at this time, where it was 100% Jewish at one point. If you go to the Century in West Palm or in Pembroke, it's Latino, it's everything mixed. It's a very different audience now.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. Those shows are a
Yeah, they
lot
sound
of
like
fun.
a lot of fun.
And I'm going to be there this January. And it's a theater, and there's good sound, and the audience. It's an audience that's seen it. They know what shows are. These, back in the day. I mean, I remember when I was performing in the Catskills and in Florida for you in the beginning. I'm in front of an audience that has seen the best of the best comedians in the world, and so that's it makes you up your game.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like you can't call it in.
Right.
You
of
can't
course.
call it in. Yeah.
Oh no, you can't fool these people.
No, you cannot fool
not
them.
at all.
They know
you can't
if
fake
you're
it at
faking
all.
it. They
No,
know if you're
they know.
faking it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Modi has a likability even before he starts. So he comes on, they love him, and then he kills them.
No, first of all, when I was working in the Catskills, don't forget, I began there. I was 25, 26 years old. I don't forget, one of the women was just watching me, and she just yelled out of nowhere. She yells out, "You're so handsome." It's just so, I go, "Are you enjoying the show?" She goes, "I have no idea what you're saying. I forgot my hearing aid in the room, but you're just so pleasant to look at. You're just so pleasant to look at." It was just...
That's a great title. Pleasant to look at.
I'll take that any day of the year. I'll take that line. Yeah. Anyway, Arnold, I want to tell you, this chair keeps falling. I been worked for you for more than anybody in the world, longer than anybody in the world. And it's been a pleasure, and I have to thank you. I really have to thank you
Well,
for.
I want to thank you for inviting me today. I've enjoyed this very much.
No, it's a pleasure. This is the Catskill part of my life, and currently, I'm looking forward to this tour in Florida, and what's your vision of comedy now? Like, you've seen it all. You've never had this cancel culture stuff. You never had all this anger that's in comedy.
I still try to book the comedians that can relate to our audiences. Most of the new comics that are coming in, I cannot book. They work at comedy clubs, and they may be great there, but the language, the four-letter words, every other word, or where are you from? Where are you from? People are not interested in that. Are you gay? Are you straight? That's their act. And in our venues, we can't do that. They're just people who don't want it. So I try to book the tried and true performers, and that's where we are.
No, but I've sent him. Eric Newman, who works for me, I sent you to him, and you booked
Eric's
him.
great.
He did fine.
I told Eric, know where you from, and obviously know four-letter words, and he...
And you also recommended Elon Altman, who did a nice job for us last year.
That's good. That's great. Elon's
I was
great.
very happy
So
to
it's
see
all
someone.
clean. Your audiences are.
No, you can be a little risque, but,
What's risque? What?
well,
You have to know. You have to know. So once I'm in an audience and I'm doing an hour, if I throw out the word S-H-I-T, right? If you throw it out,
that's cute.
it becomes adorable.
Right.
It becomes cute because I accented a bit. by
Same with
putting
one
that in.
FU. You can get
Right.
away with it, but you
Right.
can't get away with the C word. You can't get away with certain things.
But if you're starting off right away, you get on stage and you prove yourself as a comedian does not need to curse, and then all of that you build up to whatever the bit is, and you throw out a four-letter word, it clings. And now, obviously, this is not for an organization; it's at a hotel.
No, it's interesting. It really is.
And
Don't you want to ask Arnold a question?
In
though?
a minute, but
okay.
we spoke about this before. It's it's always know your audience and know where your place is there. If you're going to their country club, it's their place.
Yeah.
If they're coming to a comedy club,
Right.
it's your place. In the places where you're booking, it's neutral.
Correct.
It's neutral. It's a theater that's they're coming, I'm coming. It might be on there, so you have to just know. Okay, Arnold, I always ask all the guests, who's your rabbi? And not just your synagogue rabbi, who's your guru? If you had a question today, you're probably the rabbi of many people. People call you and ask for advice. But if you needed advice about anything from an act to something spiritual to something, who would you go to?
That's a tough question. I really don't have one. at this point. Years ago, there were agents like Jack Siegel and original people that knew the business, and I was able to learn from them, or I went and asked them many, many questions. Unfortunately, they were all gone, every one of them. I'm one of the last, and I discuss everything with my business partner. I speak with my sister, who helps me with it as well. I try to speak to my nephews to get a younger view of what they're going to see, because they go to the comedy clubs and stuff, and I ask them questions as well, and I get good answers from them as well. But I
Good.
don't have one person that I go to.
Okay. And so if somebody wanted to book an act through you, how would they get
They
to you? Was there a website? Or
We have a website under NYK-RAPP. We have a website under Charles Rapp Enterprises, Inc.
Good. That's it. What about you? Anything you
Please
wanna-
call.
Please call.
I have a bunch of shows coming up. You can find me at Periel Ashenbrand on Instagram.
Okay. I am, of course, at Modi_live on Instagram and ModiLive.com, where you can get tickets to all the upcoming shows. So this is not going to air before the New York. Okay, so the next big shows that I have coming up, I'm at Governor's December 2nd. I'm also at Los Angeles, December 8th. I'm going to be at the Laugh Factory. So much fun. Looking forward to that. It's selling. I'm sorry. City Winery for the Christmas, the holidays show. Not a Christmas show, but this year, since Friday is Christmas Eve, which I usually do it on that, we're moving it to Christmas Day. Please come get tickets for that. That's at the City Winery. Everything's available on ModiLive.com. What else? The feedback is so good. Thank you all for sending what you like about the show and what you want to see different in the show. And sponsors, we are accepting all kinds of packages of all kinds of chatskis and schmonskis and foods and everything. And we're looking for sponsors for the shows. And it's a great place to get a good plug for a very loyal audience. And the cameos, they are coming in as Modi, Nir, or Yoili. I'm available for the cameos, and I love doing them. And people always show me whenever I get to these shows, he did for my brother-in-law. Thank you all very much. Arnold, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you for having me.
For
I
the
enjoyed
years, for the years of booking me,
Oy,
and
oy,
for
oy.
today, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye,
bye,
everybody.
everybody.